At 11:30, the Secretary General will hold his final press conference of the year and of his mandate.
Okay, okay. I have a couple more, but I want to make sure to ask this
yeah.
one because before I wanted to ask you, I guess whether the Ethics Office has signed off on the Secretary General appearing for talks for which $1,200 are charged. And I'm asking this is going to take place tomorrow, and I'm asking it not on my behalf, but I know journalists that want to or are required by their employers to cover it, and they were told they have to pay that amount to cover it. So I wanted to know, it seems like a strange practice. I know he's giving a free speech in Southern Illinois University next week, but what are the ethics, or in terms of UN ethics, not moral ethics?
The Yunka dinner is a long-standing tradition to which you participated at the highest levels on a number of occasions in the same format. It's a tradition, and a tradition that will go on.
And
Thank
he doesn't
you.
have any, there's no provision, for example, for Korean media to cover it without joining the group?
They wanted to go to Detroit, Michigan. It was really not an attractive place to go. Third-class city, I mean, like, it's not the kind of city you would want to go to, right? Like, Detroit is not a very attractive city. What's that? It's a flyover city.
Question for Ms. Gayach, if you can give some update on, I see it as a New York issue, this Seng bribery case that's pending in the Southern District of New York, here in New York. It's another aspect of contracting at the UN, but it hasn't been resolved. It's going to trial in January. A superseding indictment was filed that says that this South News entity was a bribery conduit. This is a word used by Preet Bharara. So I'm wondering, Ms. Gayach, since I've asked you about this previously and your response was to evict the press that asked and to leave South News in the House, now that the superseding indictment has been filed, what do you think? Has your thinking changed? Thank you.
And on the latest case that you mentioned, I don't have any update, but I'm ready to learn with my colleagues from OLA and others. If there is anything, I'll be absolutely ready to share it with you. Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah.
Sure. I wanted to ask you something that I'd asked you November 25th and again earlier this week in connection, or in an email about also the Mali picture, has to do with the reported killing of an IDP civilian in Bambari and CAR by a peacekeeper from Mauritania. There are also some other, like 5 questions that were asked on the 25th, none of which have been answered. But on this, so I want to ask, on I was told that there was some investigation. I'm just wondering, how long does it take to determine whether the peacekeeper fired the bullet and whether it was responsible and what was done on? And 2, on the other questions, is there some, when are those questions going to be answered? Some of them are just very simple questions about use of UN money. Is there some problem with answering them?
Regarding that, some emailed questions sometimes take their own pace. Some of them I know. One of them was, I believe, an attack on one of your reporter colleagues. I don't believe that is going to be answered. We don't try to honor when one reporter.
The question
was,
was,
another
what
reporter.
is the waiting list for office space, and what was the list at the time that Christina Gayach decided to evict intercity press and put in a person who doesn't come? So you can call it an attack, but you should have a rule.
The reporter you're talking about does in fact come. I'm sure your fellow reporters in this room appreciate the fact.
So what about the use of UN funds to travel? I mean, if you wanted, that's fine. If you you could have just answered the question in writing, and then it wouldn't be discussed here.
Stefan, please stop talking over me. Has answered the question about the travel.
He said everything was inappropriate. So I said, let's give a list of the trips in the last year. It's very simple. Like,
no,
it's not your money. It's public money.
No, Matthew. Stefan has answered that question. That trip has been dealt with and has been handled in the appropriate manner. Regarding reporters, you are not the hall monitor of reporters, and you don't get to judge.
Does DPI have a list?
You don't get to judge.
Right.
You do not get to judge whether your colleagues attend these briefings enough or not.
Does DPI have a list of people waiting so that it's not given out to reward those who ask no questions?
If you have any issues about accreditation, take this up with my colleagues in media accreditation.
What about OPM?
Have a good afternoon.
What about the contracting in Burundi? Like, you don't answer the questions and then you come and you misuse your podium. No, you don't.